Good evening, good evening.
Good evening, y'all.
I'm your host, Jessica Evans.
Yeah, and I'm your host, Tommy Evans.
And together we are going to be discussing adjusting while growing together.
Hey, look, it's time for us to talk, y'all.
Yes.
We got to get it in. We've got to get it in.
I already shared it to your page. So we hope that you all have had an amazing Monday so far. We know it's the beginning of the week, and most of us have a short week because of Good Friday.
Oh, yeah.
So we are off on Friday, so we have like this 3-day weekend going on. So I hope everyone is taking advantage of that. Just getting in his presence and doing something, for yourself and things of that sort, having great fellowship with one another.
It was an awesome weekend, y'all. It was a busy
My
weekend.
ears are popping.
Sure they are. Your week, remember? But look, tag and share with your friends and family. Let them know we're on the air. And we've got some awesome stuff that we want to share with you guys. Awesome things that we want to get into. It's going to be absolutely amazing.
Yes. So please tag and share like my husband mentioned. We will be getting started shortly. We're just waiting for everyone to join us. We missed you all. We really did. We were off last week and
gave y'all too much time off.
Too much time. So it's time to get this work. So if you all can continue to tag and share as you're joining, so that way we can see that you're on, say hello, say where you're tuning in from. Don't be shy. This is very interactive. So if you have any questions for those who have never joined our platform before or really don't know about our show, we have been doing this for over a year now. And typically what we do is just discuss tools that will help you with your relationship, dating, and even your marriage.
Yep.
We actually went through a lot of counseling.
Yolanda, how you doing? I haven't seen you in a while.
Hi, Yolanda. We went through a lot of counseling, a lot of extensive counseling before we got married. And we're a firm believer of continuing that counseling. Just because you got to the wedding day, the ceremony, doesn't mean that you arrived. There's still some things, some kinks that you have to work out along the way. So.
Oh, word. Gotta keep the communication going. Have to keep the growth going. Have to keep the communication going. In other words, when you go through counseling, you get tools. And once you get the tools, the key is to be able to take the tools that you have and put those tools to work.
Absolutely.
So that's why, we're big on what we do and how we do it. Hey, Haley, how you doing? God bless you. But yeah, it's really all about being able to take those tools, and it's about fine-tuning your relationship. What's up, dude? It doesn't matter what the relationship is. She said she's been traveling. Now we online. She can watch us anywhere in the world. She said, I've been traveling. I love you, Yolanda. I love you, Yolanda.
You've known them longer than me. I can't say nothing. Just the emoji. Like, what can you do?
But the tools that you get, you want to make sure that you utilize those tools.
Yes.
You want to be, our desire is that we can help you be intentional.
Yes.
About making your relationship the best relationship on the planet, hands down. No questions asked. That's our job.
And what also I want to add on to that, we can give you all the tools that's necessary, but if you don't apply them and you're not consistent with them, it's null and void at that point.
Quincy, just stopping through at the gym.
Hey, Q. Hey, Cuzzo.
What is with the crew tonight?
Look, they stopping whatever they doing and coming on Let's Unwind, and I love it.
But they're not stopping.
See, I'm optimistic.
That's a pit stop. He just saying, hey, I'm on, but then I'm out. That's like teasing somebody. Like, ooh, you hungry? I got some
Listen, go ahead, Q. Put your phone in your pocket, do your workout, and you can still listen to us audio.
That's the right there.
Maybe that could help.
That's the part. Quincy is one of our singles that that talks for us on the singles night that we have.
So just a quick announcement, and we're going to get started, you all. Naturally, we do this for an hour, so we don't want to take away from that topic, but we will have a singles show actually airing on Wednesday, March 31st at 7 p.m.
Is that this Wednesday?
This Wednesday at 7 p.m.
Okay. I got to get another calendar or something because these dates just get by me. I don't know how these dates be getting past me like
How
this.
am I making an announcement and my husband doesn't know the announcement I'm making?
Because my wife be making plans and be doing stuff and talking to folk, and she act like she be talking to me about the stuff, and I don't know. Then it'd be
He's
like an
a part
hour
of the
before something, and
chat,
she'd
so
be
he
like,
don't. To his point, he's been kind of occupied doing multitasking, so things get lost in transit. But yes, honey,
For me,
it is Wednesday. It is Wednesday, March 31st at 7 p.m. For those who are single and would like to join our broadcast, just reach out to myself or my husband, and we'll be more than happy to give you some details and things of that sort. I know we have Haley and then Jade, two women who are actually going to be joining us on the panel from the last time. So you guys are in for a treat. But let's go ahead and kick this off.
Join us this time?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they in trouble. Oh,
yes.
Trouble.
And we had the pleasure of meeting Haley up close and personal. I love you, sweetie.
Oh, man. Yes.
I absolutely love you. Feel like I've known you all my life. Yeah.
Energy. What? I want to know how many
my ears are popping still.
Monster drinks she drinks.
I love you so much that I traveled to Texas just for my ears.
But I wonder how many of those Monster drinks or the Red Bull energy drinks. She must drink a lot of Red Bull energy drinks with all the energy that she has. Her energy is through the roof. I was tired watching her.
So stupid.
I'm serious.
So let's go ahead and get started. Why don't you kick us off, babe?
Kick us off. Okay, we're going to discuss making adjustments in your relationship. Whether you're married, whether you're single, it's all about making adjustments. Yeah. And you have to be able to understand certain adjustments that are being made and why they're being made. Hey, Jaya, bless you, woman of God. So you want to be, I put on my Facebook page, I asked you, how adaptable are you? And that's the key right there, because when you go into a relationship.
Starting it out like that.
Yes. I mean, we got to get right into it. What we're going to go.
Hey, y'all know what it is. Go ahead.
But I asked you, how adaptable are you? And that means, are you in a position to where everything just has to be your way? Or you're understanding when you're in the relationship that you got to be able to adapt to the other person that you're in a relationship with, because things change. That person changes, and you got to be, and I think a lot of people kind of mess this up early on in their relationships because they have these ideas that we call unrealistic expectations. And you have this idea that he's going to be like this, she's going to be like this, and that's that. Man, it's furthest thing from the truth, because that person that you with going to have an attitude, going to have tantrums, going to have their own habits, their own opinions. And so all of a sudden your expectation explodes because you're not adaptable and saying, okay, I have what I think I want in that person, but I'm also willing to deal with who they are and how they are, and so we really want to kind of touch on some of these things tonight.
Now, when I say dealing with how they are, what they are, we're not talking about emotional abuse. We're not talking about physical abuse or anything of that.
We're not talking about mistreatment.
Yeah, we're not talking about that. So if you see red flags from that, it's time to get out, especially if you're not married. Don't got time for that. If they're not willing to say, look, I'm messed up, I need some counseling, let's work through this. Matter of fact, we shouldn't even date, because I got some stuff I need to work on. Like, if they're not at that mature place, that's how you can tell about, even if they're in a season of unbrokenness, let's say that, like they're just broken and they haven't went through proper healing. The mature person will say, you know what, I'm jacked up and I don't have it all together and I refuse to take you down with me. So we're not talking about those individuals for you to just adapt to. No, that's a lie. That's a lie. So I will say to my husband's point, yes, we can oftentimes just get into, what our list is. Okay, we have a particular list that we want a man or a woman to offer. And if they don't fit that criteria, then it's like, okay, well, they're crossed off the list, or you don't even pursue because they're not meeting that list. And when it comes down to a list, it's really important to just throw it away. Just rip it up, tear it up into shreds, and just throw it away, because you just do not know what person is destined to be with you. And it may not fit your list. And if you're just so keen on finding this particular person, and you're missing who could be right in front of you because you have this particular list.
But what about the person you found your person?
Okay.
And you've been together, and now all of a sudden you find out some things about your person. Mm-hmm. You found your person. Now that's the key, your person.
Yes.
So we're not looking for nobody else.
Yeah.
You got what you need.
Okay.
But they got some stuff.
And the relationship plowing.
And the relationship is moving forward. Now they got some stuff.
So for that particular individual and that situation, I would say, is it something that is a deal breaker to you? Is it something that can be worked on? So when I say a deal breaker, if it's something that you yourself are, because we're big on balance, right? So if it's something that
I just said you found your person, so the deal breaking is off the table.
Not necessarily, because
deal breaking off the table. No. You found your person.
I'm not talking about marriage. I'm talking about dating. So you could find what you think is your person.
Marriage. Okay,
yeah, we're not.
Go ahead and finish your.
We have to. Yeah, we talked about.
So you ain't found your person.
Pursuing, and then we're talking about being in a relationship. You can't just say you go from pursuing to marriage. Not necessarily. Some people don't go through that. They go through cycles of dating. So if that is the case, with that being said, if you are dating and you feel like this is the person for you, and you guys have been together for a couple of years or whatever the case may be, building and growing together, and there's just certain things that are kind of iffy, like, do I want to tolerate this? Should I tolerate it? You have to ask yourself, one, are you even in the place of what you're asking for? Like, are you doing what you're asking for? So oftentimes we can easily put these expectations, these high expectations on someone outside of us, but we can slack off.
Yeah.
We can have a bad day.
You ain't bringing nothing to the table.
We can have a bad day. We can get in our feelings. We can do this, we can do that. But the moment that they do, it's an issue. Or, so it's from that perspective of, you have to understand that if you're not at the place of where you desire that person to be, then you must have grace, because otherwise you're just being judgmental.
But see, that kind of takes us to a whole nother perspective, because now we're talking about maturity, and that we know by and large there are a lot of people out here, and they could be old, they could be young, it don't matter. A lot of these people are not mature. Here's the reality: most people are not mature enough to look at themselves in any regard. And I'm talking from a pastoral perspective. Mm-hmm. We can bring something to a person. Hey, this is what you're dealing with. That's not me. You bring her. You ain't gonna tell me what to do. You bring something to her. We are not inclined to look at ourselves.
Yeah.
Ever. Mm-hmm. So it's easy to go into a relationship and point the finger. They got the problem. Mm-hmm. They got the issue. And I'm doing it. And it's like, and in most cases, it's not them.
Yeah.
It always comes back home.
And I also want to just share, because we're talking about adjusting and while growing together. So let's just say that, in the beginning stages, there were some things that they showed you in the beginning, right? So whether it was, okay, so they know how to be responsible, they know how to be, on time, they know how to be a gentleman, she knows how to be a lady, all these different things that you're seeing from what they're showing you, what they're choosing to show you, right? So then you get into this relationship, and now it's like, okay, well, I'm not really seeing the same thing I was seeing before. So I got into a relationship, or I committed myself to something that was just their representation.
That's it.
And now it's like, okay, were they just trying to fake it to get me? Or is that who they're really like? Are they just wavering? And, it's just certain things.
A moment ago, because that issue there goes across the board, from male.
Hello, Regina.
To female.
Hello, Diane.
Whenever you first meet anybody, you're always going to put your best foot forward. Reality is, you got a hood rat in you. You're not going to show your hood rat side. Yeah. It's not until you get to the place I was saying, you get kind of into the relationship. Yeah. And now I'm going to show you my hood.
Yeah.
And that's where I was saying, at this point, you found who you want now. You're not looking, you're good. But now all of a sudden you realize, okay, there's some other things that's happening here. There's some other issues, but they're not deal-breaking type issue. They're issues that require you to be adaptable.
Okay. So with that being said, what we're talking about, if those who are just tuning in, and please tag and share.
Yes,
let us know where you're tuning in from. We love to interact with our audience. So continue to just be there, ask us questions, whatever the case may be. But no, to that point, I just feel like when it comes down to maybe issues or certain things that happen in a marriage or relationship and you have to adjust to, a lot of single people just don't understand sacrifice. They don't understand sacrifice because it's my way. This is what I want. This is what I deserve. I'm not doing this. I know my self-worth.
Her husband debates things or overanalyzes things. And she said, I lose it at times.
Yeah. So we're going to get into that too, Diane. Perfect that you brought that up. So let me go ahead and show that for everyone who is shown. Okay. So as I was saying, that there are certain things in a marriage or relationship that you have to adjust to. It could be losing and gaining weight. It could be blended family issues. It could be in-law issues, overbearing parents that the spouses have not put in check. So they pretty much run their marriage.
Lack of boundaries.
Lack of boundaries.
Okay.
It could be attitude adjustments. It could be vulnerability adjustments. It could just be
attitudinal,
being unified, not knowing how to be unified, and you just oftentimes separate and not even understand why your mindset is geared towards separating.
Disconnect.
No, separating. So not disconnecting. Disconnecting, there's usually a root or an issue to there. But no, when you're used to doing a thing and used to being your own individual, sometimes you just, if you're in a marriage, you still operate from a separate perspective, and you just never on one accord. So that can happen. Medical issues that can happen. That could be a factor. Adjusting to that. Adjusting to now that you have children, they're off to college, and now you have an empty nest. That is an adjustment
because you don't know each other.
What happens when a spouse loses their job? That's an adjustment. What happens when
a spouse gets sick?
Yeah, medical conditions. Yeah. What else is there an adjustment to?
They get bald.
They get bald. Yeah, I mean maybe they're not attractive as they used to be.
Yeah,
they're no longer eye candy.
They gain weight, lose weight, they lose hair.
Yeah.
You get these kind of quirks. So now all of a sudden you have this person that you are with who is internally experiencing something, and outwardly it's coming out.
Yes.
How do you manage that? How do you deal with that? Are you in a position to be able to say, hey, you know what? I see what's happening here. I can work with that.
And how do you deliver it? How do you talk through it?
Well, it's like what Diane said here. It's funny because you have up there where she says her husband debates things. Then she came back and said, I think he has a hard time facing when he's wrong. And I think there's a way to tell a person that they're wrong without really throwing it in their face. You're just wrong. No, stop. I mean, it's a way to deliver
Right. And we're not saying that you're delivering it that way.
Oh, no. Right. No.
Yeah.
I'm using that as the example for everything else. To your point.
Yeah.
There's a delivery method that is most effective almost always with a disagreement, or even with if you notice that someone is going through something.
Give an example of that.
I mean,
those who struggle in that area with addressing something to or bringing something to their spouse's attention, and the defensive mechanism. We have to adjust and to grow. We have to talk about the defense behavior.
Yeah. Well, and what happens is what you want to do first of all is show some empathy, show some compassion, put yourself in their shoes. And I know what I just said is everybody's turned off at that. I'm not putting myself in her shoes. I'm not putting myself in his shoes. And that's part of the dilemma, because you're not the one that's experiencing what's happening. So there's this lack of sensitivity that's taking place because you're not. And so that's why you want to at least put yourself there, switch sides first. And now from there, you can understand, okay, if I deliver this way, it's going to create a defensive mechanism. They're going to isolate. They're going to hide, and I don't want them to hide. I don't want them to isolate. I want them to connect. I want them to engage. I want them to be a part of what's going on. So in order to do that, I need to draw them in, and that's the key. So we want to be able to draw them in to where we're at so that we can kind of move forward with everything that's transpiring. And I love that, Regina, asking the question of what he or she thinks of the issue instead of more like blaming. That's the key, dialoguing about it. What is your thoughts about such and such? What is your thoughts about this? What is your thought about that? And that's the thing that you really want to look at. I said delivery is important, but if they continually deflect things back to you and your stuff without ever admitting their ooh, boy.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, that happens in relationships. I mean, believe it or not, as much as we counsel you all, we have experienced that. We're going to be transparent and let you guys know, but we have experienced that. And one thing I have to share with my husband, for example, if there is an issue on the table, that does not give you the right to put your issue on the table.
Correct.
So just because you neglected to communicate, maybe you have some communication barriers you have to work through, and that's okay. But this is not your time to have the floor.
Or you talked about that this weekend. Yeah. You saw the guy's response, right?
So in that instance, I have the floor. And just like if he were to bring an issue, he has the floor. It's not my job to bring something that happened last week or a month ago. Well, well, you did that. Okay. Did you tell him he did that or she did that? And if you didn't at that time, then oh well, you cannot address it. If there is a confrontation happening or an expression of feelings happening at that time, the worst thing you can do to show that you're unsafe is to deflect. When you deflect, when you get defensive, when you do all of those things in response to what your partner is communicating to you, that does not show that you're safe.
But now let's keep in mind with what we're really addressing tonight, it's not so much those types of conflict as much as just understanding that there has to be some adjustments that have to go on. It doesn't matter how long you've been together, married, in a relationship or whatever. At some point, each person is growing.
Yes.
And as they're growing, there are going to be things that's going to change about that person.
Yes.
That person does not stay the same.
And I can even give you guys an example, like when I first, because for me, I was single most of my life. This is my first marriage, and we are newlyweds. For those who are tuning in, my husband has been married before. This is his second marriage. So me coming into it, it was just something that was an adjustment for me because I was so used to being independent. I was so used to being on my own. I was so used to taking care of myself. Even when I was dating, I didn't really allow someone to take care of me. And watch this, while I was dating, for those who are single, while I was dating, I was always the rescuer, right? So all that did was actually fuel my independence, right? My independence and all of that went into overdrive. because now I'm taking care of myself, but now I'll rescue. Oh, you need a ride to work or whatever the case may be. I'll be there. You know what I'm saying? So it was kind of like that. So even when I came into our marriage, it was a sense of, even when it came to finances, I was just always that one where, I'll work overtime to get it. It's uncomfortable for me to have to depend or rely or even ask my husband, who I devoted, my life to for the rest of my life. It's hard for me to ask, but that came, from childhood, but that wasn't something that I even knew where it stems from. That's why counseling and therapy, we are always an advocate for that, because you just don't know why you respond, why you think certain things and all of that. And it could come from what you've seen, what you didn't see, what you experienced, what you didn't. I mean, all of it is together, coupled in together. So you have to kind of find the root and not just say, okay, well, it is what it is. I've been this way for this many years, I might as well stay. No, listen, not when you bring someone else into the equation.
Very selfish.
Yeah.
Very selfish mindset.
Yes.
And and that happens. We'll say, look, I am who I am. You just get over it. No. We're talking about adjustment. That means that you are all about yourself, all for yourself, and you're never going to have a productive relationship.
Yeah.
Okay, you're never going to have a productive relationship with that mindset.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have to be able to be open to understand that, okay, if I am this way, okay, there needs to be some, maybe I need, and that's the problem, because relationship, we always talk about it, relationship is relational, which means it's two ways. You get one person coming and the other person going, and you're meeting somewhere in the middle.
Yes.
But if you're finding that one person is, I'm this way, that's the way it is, and you're always, that's not really considered relational.
Yeah.
Because there's no merging of the two and joining of the two.
Yes. So I really love what you said. I just also just want to say that it's just really important to understand that when it comes to relationships, when it comes to marriages, don't get involved with someone unless you're willing to make a sacrifice. Don't go into a relationship unless you're willing to compromise on some things. It's not always going to be your way or the highway. We hear it all the time. Okay, well, if he can't do this, I don't need him. If she can't do this, I could get somebody else, whatever the case may be. All those stigmas, and that makes it so easy for a person to check out instead of working through it. If you always have a escape plan, you have to get rid of the escape plans. You have to get rid of the immaturity and say, look, I'm going to stick this out. And with adjustments, it could be something as simple as, for me, when we got married, there were certain things. I was always a picky eater, right? Had a dad as a chef. So for me, if I didn't want to eat something, I didn't have to, because he would make me my favorite. He would make me this, he would make me that. That was never an issue. And so for me, that's just kind of how it was. And so certain foods, I just would say off gate, I don't like it. Never tried it before. Just did not like it.
To this day.
And so I got married with my husband, and it was just certain things that I began eating because we were together, and he would cook and things of that sort. So it's in order to express love. When I realized that he really loved cooking, because I wouldn't have known that really in dating, because we weren't technically living together all of the time we were dating, right? So he didn't necessarily have to cook for me. We were going out to eat to dinner. So I didn't know the passion he had behind cooking. So once that actually became something that I realized, I was like, okay, well, it is kind of rude for me not to try what he's made. Yeah, I tried your salad, just didn't like the salad. So recently he made a salad. I tried it, don't like it. It is what it is. But the growth perspective is, I wouldn't even have tried it. I know what I don't like. I know what's in it. Not gonna try it. But it still made him kind of feel a certain way. But I know the growth inside of me, the fact that I tried it, because that was just something, you talking about almost 30 years of just getting your way with food. I'm not going to do it. But when I realized that my husband put effort into it, it's a different kind of appreciation that you show, ladies, when your husband is catering to you. In the same way, gentlemen, when you get off work and you come home to a nice home cooked meal and you're just like, okay, well, I'll just sit in front of the TV, or I'll turn the game on, or I'll, get on my phone, or I'll do this and do that. And you wait so late to eat dinner, that's a slap in the face.
Don't be like Uncle Curtis on the House of Pain.
That is a slap in the face, because it's like, wait, I cooked for you. I made sure I timed it. I timed it to the point where it would be ready by the time you got home, or it would be ready by the time you got ready for work in the morning, whether it was fixing you your favorite coffee or your favorite tea, just certain things like that. So there is an adjustment that you make, because when you're single, I can wake up late, I can go to sleep whatever time I want, I could just walk out the house without any reference to anyone. Not when you're married. There's just certain things that you're just not wanting to do, because you're just wanting in that space of wanting to please the other person. So any way you can take off a load, you're willing to take off. And that's what's on your mind. How can we be effective together? What can I do today that will help him or help her? That's just something that you develop and you grow into, right? Because we're talking about growing and adjusting. When you're single, it's just about what you're doing, what you want. You can procrastinate if you want to, whatever the case may be. But when you're married,
and there's no adjustment.
But when you're married, you guys have a vision. So who are you to procrastinate any longer? That shows you don't care about the vision, right? So it's easy to, do that for your own. But when you're actually involved with someone, it goes back to what my husband said. It's very selfish to have this mindset, I'm going to stay how I am. They knew this before, they married me. They knew what came with it, whatever the case. Sometimes, no, not all of what comes with you, especially if you were not living together, cohabitating. There are certain couples that don't even realize until they reach marriage that there's certain things about their spouse that they do not like, but they're already married.
See, now, and that, I agree with that. But then I also have to kind of get hard real quick and say, at the same time, some of you did know what you were coming into, and you chose to go into it anyway. Mm-hmm. So you don't have the right now to really complain about it.
Stokes.
It's and that's where for me, especially when we're talking to single people, we often tell them to make sure you do your proper investigation.
Yes.
Make sure you do enough background checks, and we're not talking about look at a person's credit report and all that. No, we're talking about look at attitudes. Look at how they treat, other ladies, their sisters, their mothers. And, there's so much you can find out, because what happens ultimately is a lot of us, when we're in a relationship, it's all about what we feel. Oh, my God, I'm so in love. But you stop looking for things to make sure that everything is right.
Are they attempting to change even the small things? Like, with my husband, and I don't know, babe, we could talk about it, but for him, I probably drive him batty, you guys, because I am a preventative maintenance type of person. So what that means in short is the fact that I always analyze not only his behavior, but my own. How can I be better today than I would? How can I be better tomorrow than I am today? Like, I'm always looking, how can I navigate this and work smarter instead of harder? Like, there's just certain things that I'm always doing.
Always.
So from that angle, it's like nothing could ever kind of get overlooked in our marriage, that has not been plowed or stuck a needle in, like, okay, babe, we haven't tread here. We need to tread here, because I can see this being an issue long term. This is coming from someone who does not want a divorce. Don't look. If that means we talk about divorce, that means we both failed. Not one person failed. Both of us failed. And I'm not going to be attached and devote my life to something just to fail. No, I'm going to give 100%. So if I'm giving 100% and you're giving 100%, that's just what it boils down to. But oftentimes in marriages, oftentimes neither one of the spouses are doing preventative maintenance. They're just living and existing together.
Well, yeah, what happens is life happens.
Yeah.
And when life begins to happen for a lot of people, you tend to stop looking at certain things. And what happens is kind of to the point that you made earlier about, well, that's just the way I am. Watch this. You now say, oh, that's just how she is. It's okay. That's just how he is. It's okay. See, all of a sudden,
you'll be miserable.
It's now,
eventually.
I'll settle for what it is. I'm not going to deal with it. He's not going to change. She's not going to change. So
notice I said we newlyweds, right? I'm going to keep the same energy 20 years in. Trust me when I say come back to March 29th, 2021, I will keep the same exact energy, okay? Because I just believe that when it comes down to a marriage, you have to put work in. There has to be effort. So from that perspective, no, don't just be passive. Don't just be laid back. And this goes for men and women. There are some needs that you actually desire and want. And if those needs go unmet, it's not just sweeping it under the rug. You have to address those things. And oftentimes we just sweep it under the rug. But for me, I could say from that perspective, how does that kind of make you feel, babe? I have to bring you into this because I could speak on me, but
bring me in.
A preventative maintenance perspective.
I get you. But I find it funny, we're talking because we were talking with some couples over the weekend, and we kind of got on this issue, and it's hilarious. But the reality is, for most men, we're not wired that way. So for a man, it takes a lot of effort to be preventive. From a communication perspective.
That's a shame because they would put in all that work for a job, right? So I have an issue. It's our show. So I have an issue where men can put all that energy, all that effort into work. We can put all that energy in watching a game, hooping, hollering, all the in between, analyzing each play. But you can't analyze your relationship and marriage? What kind of mess is that? That's not.
Because here, watch what happens for a man. The mindset behind a man is to hunt and conquer, right? For the mindset of a man, once you have put the ring on your finger, the conquering has taken place. So at this point, and again, it's just most men.
My face.
Why? So now what happens is, what do I need to work for? I've already got you. Because watch, it's not taught that you need to continue to work.
But when
it's not taught that you need to continue to be preventive. Mm-hmm. It's not taught that, and so that's what we're looking at. The general mindset for a man is not taught this.
So for the men who have been following us, what we do is give you tools to apply. So for the tools that are applying, you cannot say after watching this live, you don't know. That's off the table. Oh, I wasn't taught that. Doesn't matter. Every single day you learn something new. You learn something new in life.
No, because you know yourself, you can't just hear something one time and get it. Right. It takes a repetitive time.
But there could be an aha moment. So if somebody has been divorced.
So remember what I told you about media? What I told you about radio?
Yeah.
What is the mindset behind radios and why they do commercials? They do commercial because they want to make sure that it takes 30 times for you to hear one commercial.
My husband's so analytical.
Before you get an aha moment. So you watch our show, great, but it's going to take you 30 times to watch our show before it finally hits you and say, oh man, that's what I need to do. And that's what people miss.
So outside of that, because there may be people that don't even think about all that, your experience says, I've had failed relationships. I've had brokenness.
What if they haven't had divorce?
No, I'm saying if they have. Just saying. Or anytime that they're with their wife, there's an argument, there's tension. It's not always built on that. If that was that case, you wouldn't have married her. You wouldn't have married him. So if it comes down to a communication issue where there's always a wedge or there's always some friction, then 9 times out of 10, you know what? I'm doing something wrong. It's not just her. It's not just him.
No maturity. said, I've done something wrong. Why? Remember what I said earlier? Most people are immature. So they do what? Point the finger. So now she's nagging.
Right.
Now she's
we
getting on my
are here
nerves.
to enlighten, right? So we're not stooping down to their mindset. We never do that.
No, we're trying to show them what they're doing so that they can say, oh, wait a minute. Okay, so because I keep pointing the finger, I'm immature.
Right. We said that in the beginning of the video. So that's fine. But at a certain point of doing the same thing, which is insanity, getting the same result, you have to say, after listening to something where you may have never heard it, oh, wow, I really have to stop pointing the finger.
So that's where counseling comes in at, relationship counseling. Diane said, she sent this to her husband, that he put so much time into the business, studying and researching and taking notes, but about 5% into her marriage, which is in trouble right now. And here, I want to address that just for a moment because, and I'm sure she's probably said some things to women, but now it's like, hey, do you realize that we're in trouble right now? And for us men, it's like it almost, it's once it's in trouble, we realize it's in trouble. But while it's going to that place of trouble for whatever reason, we don't recognize it's an issue.
Because women are just nagging. Right? So you have to get out your mindset that your wife is your mama, right? So when it comes down to you being your mom is always correcting you, right? So you go into a marriage where anytime your wife says something that's correcting, you got the mama syndrome, right? Not talking about you, but you have the mama syndrome. So when it comes down to any kind of woman showing any kind of correction or saying, babe, you may want to do it this. Don't tell me what to do. Nope. So from that perspective, now you're grown. Now you're at your mama's house. So it's like, okay, I don't want to live with my mom. And that is a mindset that has to be adjusted. So it's easy for men to forsake their marriage or relationship. Like, oh, that's just her. She and her feelings. She'll get over it. Okay, keep on saying, okay, she'll get over it. And then you're going to get some divorce papers filed. That's not where we want you all to end up. So from my perspective, you have to make the effort, make the conscious decision to want to change. If there is something that your spouse has been sharing with you, look, I'm unhappy. You don't have to figure it out. You don't have to do the Rubik's Cube and say, okay, this goes with this. No, I gave you all you needed. I'm unhappy. And this is what makes me unhappy.
So now let me ask you this question. How does a man think about that? What you just said, how does a man think?
I'm not a man, so how does a man think when it comes down to an issue?
I'm asking you because you're throwing some darts out there at some of the men, and I'm saying
no, okay, I'm keeping it balanced. I'm keeping it balanced for men and women.
But the makeup of a man is what? The makeup of a man is my job is to provide and fix. So
we learned that in counseling.
So for us, if we are paying bills, if we are bringing finances in the mindset of a man, that's our job.
But it's not.
And why?
So can we talk about that?
But we know that.
Right. So we have to enlighten them.
And so the reason why they don't know that is because it's not been taught. So I'm saying, like, for instance, Diane's husband, I guarantee you he ain't watching this. So he don't know nothing that's being talked about right now. So he's not going to become enlightened.
That's just one scenario. We have plenty of people watching.
Right. So I'm saying, but for those that are watching, most of them right now are females. So they won't understand from the mindset of a man why. So I'm trying to simply share why he does what he does so that you can get a better understanding, females, of what's transpiring in his mind. And so, again, the key is for most men, their makeup is to provide. They're again, and it's a teaching thing. Their makeup is not, I need to talk about issues. No, for a man, our job is, I don't talk about issues, I solve issues. Women talk about issues. So the disconnect between men and women, I know it's not right, but
I'm just saying that's why women check out so easily.
I know.
What I'm trying to do, I get why you're saying it's been this way. It's been that way for generations. Can we change it? Can we flip the script though? Let's flip the script. Once you have information, apply it. So we are giving you the tools. There are going to be men that watch this. They may not be on right now, but they are going to join. So we're not making excuses or any justifications. If I was making excuses for women,
see what I said? Yes, that's exactly what he's like. And that's all I'm saying. That's just what it is. So you're right. Can that change? That can change. But there's going to have to be such a teaching that takes place for men. The conversations between men that have gone on for generations has to change with knowledge, with teaching. The ladies have to get a better understanding of what's going on with the men so that they can then react differently. They can then respond differently. So it's not okay so in other words, let me say it this way. If I'm a man and I feel like I'm doing my job, just providing and protecting you, I feel like I'm doing my job.
You feel like it.
I don't know that I'm wrong because I feel like I'm doing my job.
You know, if the woman tells you. So what happens when she tells you?
But that's where it comes across from the nagging perspective. And in most cases, what's going to happen is the only way the man is going to get it is if a third party, the counselor, or maybe another man brings to his attention, brother, what you're doing is wrong.
But what if he doesn't want to go to counseling? So this is what I'm speaking of. For those who are stubborn, for those who don't want to go through counseling, for those like, I know I'm right, and I'm focused on being right than I am with hearing what you need. All right, can we talk about that?
There's nothing that can be done about that.
Okay, so from that perspective.
They need to find a new key, find a new house, and kick rocks because there ain't nothing going to change with that. That's unfortunate because we're talking about pride. Let's be spiritual. The Bible says what? Pride comes before a great fall. And so pride comes before a great fall. Pride is the biggest enemy of God. So what you're addressing is a person with pride who cannot change and won't change for God. How are they going to change for their woman? They're not. That's almost a dead end situation. You do a lot of prayer, but that's something that's not going to change because of the pride that's involved. There has to be a brokenness to take place. I think
for me, that wasn't my main thing. For me, once you know that something, when you're really connected, let's talk about connection.
That's
so when you're really connected, right? Not connected to yourself, not connected to your ego, not connected to your pride, connected to your marriage, right? So if that is first priority, y'all, I'm passionate about relationships, so I'm not going with the excuses. When you're passionate about your marriage, that is number one. So whatever you need that I'm not doing, forget what I think I'm doing. If I know out of the pattern, she doesn't even smile at me anymore. She doesn't even laugh. There's just so much tension between, even when we talk, we just everything is a miscommunication. Let's go back to the basics with this, because I don't want this to be the end of our marriage. Where does the humility come from, right? It's like, okay, now that I got you, I don't have to do anything else. Let's get out of that. Because there are so many singles who watch our program who think, okay, well, now I got to sell myself out and I may get married to someone who doesn't even
because of what they saw. And now we're talking about a whole other issue now, because what about the men who that's what they saw pattern? They saw their fathers that way. And now they have come to the point where that's where they are. And that's the key. That's why it's important for people to hear us dialogue on it and talk about the fact that, okay, it can be changed. But to your point, what you said, there has to be a connectedness. There has to be humility, and there has to be intentionality. When there is no intentionality, I don't care how beautiful you might be, how good you cook. There's nothing. There is nothing that's going to happen because the pattern has already been set in their mind that this is the way it has to be. And watch this. The sad thing is, for marriages from in times past, you know it. These folks would be together for 50, 60, 70 years. I share with you, my grandparents lived together and had separate bedrooms. And it's like, what is this? You're still together for what? You don't talk, you don't laugh, but they just refuse to. So now that pattern gets in the mindset.
That pattern can get in the mindset, or you refuse to even allow it to get to that point. I don't have to go through grandparents and generations ago. I can talk about my parents, right? So we're not talking about generations in the 20s, 30s, 40s. No, we're talking about two parents, right? So from that perspective, I actually experienced that. So my experience was the fact that they were at a certain point in their marriage, they were living in separate rooms. One was upstairs, one was downstairs. That's just how they navigated because they were not happy in their relationship, right? So as a child witnessing this, I can either get into a marriage and say, okay, well, it is what it is. I'll stay married to you 30, 40, 50 years. I don't care if I'm happy. I don't care if you happy. Let's just do what we got to do and say, nah, that's nah. We gonna work, right? Because just like we work in our relationship with God, just like we work in our relationship with God and to get a better relationship, that's never ending, right? So that should be the same energy in your marriage, right? You should never just say, "Oh, I've arrived," and you know what? This has been the structure of our relationship or our marriage. Let's just continue that. If you're a byproduct, like I was a byproduct, that's why I'm so big on preventative maintenance. If you've never been in that situation and you come from a 2-parent household
and that's
and a marriage
interesting because
that
you
was
would
healthy,
you would think that most people would take that mindset, but instead they use the other approach. And like Ari has a question, and I think this one, Ari, see, that is kind of general, but you say, how do you get your relationship to the point where things could be on agreeable terms to where he's engaging in the well-being of the relationship? It takes two to do that. And again, we've addressed some of that communication, being able to listen, being able to be humble, and all of these things. But again, that is a twofold perspective. And that everything we're talking about, and I know she's talking about the men, and I have to keep saying, but also with the women, because there are for a man, there are just certain reactions from a woman that we just don't do well with. We just don't. And for whatever reason, no woman on the planet seems to understand that aspect. And it's like, I'm just going to give you, and it's like, okay, if men are all, and that's my point, if men are already not great communicators, but you're wanting to come at this man from a communicating perspective, and I'm not talking about you, Ari, I'm talking about in general on our topic, but you're wanting to talk to him from a communication perspective, and he's not a big communicator. Hello. As you mentioned earlier about the cycle, you keep doing the same thing over and over again. That's what they would call a fool. So if this guy is not a great communicator and you're expecting him to communicate, are we supposed to really be mad at this guy because he doesn't communicate and now all of a sudden he shuts down because you keep coming at him, wanting to talk to him all the time?
So I have to play the advocate on this.
Mm-hmm.
What if he is a great communicator? You see him communicate and diffuse, mediate, all of the in between. He's a great communicator, effective too. But in the marriage, it lacks. In the relationship, it lacks.
Now, in that aspect,
you're picking and choosing.
Right. In that aspect, you have to be able to deal with the adjustment of bringing it to his attention. And here's the point I want to make. When we're talking about bringing things to a person's attention, or at least I want to make this point, I'm not talking about arguing. I'm not talking about critiquing. I'm not talking about being right and being wrong. I'm simply saying, hey, when someone is going through something or someone is experiencing something, let's use a job. If you notice that a coworker is going through something, there's a certain way you address your coworker, but you won't address your husband or wife the same way you did the coworker. You come right at your husband or wife. See, now you're not doing this right. And it's like, okay, wait, whoa. Can you give that same level of respect for that spouse or for your boyfriend or girlfriend that you would have given the coworker? And that's what I think gets lacking a lot of times. And a lot of that comes from that being so common and being so close, or being, I need my needs met, instead of saying, wait, what I said earlier, let me look at the other side. Let me look at this other person's viewpoint, and then I can help bring to their attention what's going on. My wife does a really good job, because early on we used to have the disagreements on these types of things, and she did a great job where she began to recognize if there was an issue. Instead of bringing it to me a certain way, she would kind of twist it and have me think about the situation. Then I would realize she was talking about me, and then it was like, oh, wow, I need to change that. And that to me is so big because now it avoids confrontation. It avoids deflection. It avoids these ways of dealing with things. But you have to be able to understand the right approach to take. Mm-hmm. Because again, men and women are always going to be wired differently. And because of that, it's imperative that you understand how that person is wired that you're in relationship with, because the better you can understand how they're wired, the better you can come in and bring something to their attention instead of bringing listen. And even with women, no woman wants a man always coming to her saying, you did this wrong. You did that wrong. You did this wrong. You did that wrong. No, you don't want to hear that. And the same thing for a man. He doesn't always want to hear from his woman, you did that wrong. Oh, you did that wrong. You didn't do that. And it's like, wait a minute. And to a point that was made this weekend when we were talking, the guy was saying how he felt like the wife was always bringing something to him. But for him, he could see something to her and just be like, oh, it's okay. And I'm not going to deal with it. And so that's where the difference in how the wiring approach works. Because now for a man, he could see you do something wrong, lady, and not always bring it to your attention. He could see you do something wrong and just be kind of like, that's not something that's that big. Yeah. That I'm going to, it's not a make or break. Whereas for a woman, that same issue is make or break. Yep. And it's like, okay, hold on a second.
But that's an adjustment because men and women are completely different. So this broadcast is not to say if this is a woman, not because I'm Jessica and he's Thomas, but if this is women by large, if this is men by large, then there's nothing that's going to change that dynamic, right? Now, there is sacrifice and compromising, but the nature of a man, the nature of that woman is not going to change. That's just who they are. That's their makeup. That's every woman's makeup. That's every man's makeup. Right. But when it comes down to certain aspects of the relationship, humility is a big one. If you do not have humility, men or women, in your relationship, it's going to fail. Yeah. It's going to fail each time. And it's important not to always go into the mindset of wanting to win an argument, wanting to be right. It's about coming to the resolution of what it's supposed to be.
But see, now that right there is the key. And I say it all the time. Many times people talk to respond. You don't talk to listen. And Rodney, what you just said is so key, that there's no standard blueprint. And that's correct, because you have to know your spouse. You have to know your boyfriend. You have to know your girl. You have to know how they are in order to be able to deal with them and bring the communication in the right approach. All right, no, I'm not saying it's the woman's fault for communicating. Listen, you're a woman. You're made to communicate. God made you that way. Men are wired a certain way. Women are wired a totally different way. So what I'm saying is that if you know the type of man you have, like her point, I use me. I'm a great communicator. I am. I'm not necessarily one of those guys who doesn't know how to communicate. I know how to communicate. So if I'm in a situation where I'm not talking, my wife can call me out on that. Wait a minute. You're such a great communicator. Why are you not talking to me? But for guys who do not communicate like that, now what you have to do is, here's where we're talking about the adjustment. Now you got to say, okay, I've got to adjust a certain way so that I can get him to communicate, because that's not his strong suit. Mm-hmm. It's like saying, and like Ari, and your point, you have two babies. Okay, Monty is much stronger than the baby because he's older. Yeah. It would be like you expecting the baby to give you what the older one gives you. That's wrong expectation. So you have to adjust according to each baby. Okay, the little baby can only do so much. The bigger baby can give me another thing. So now we have to understand our mate and say, okay, what is his or her strength? Yeah. What is his or her weakness? And where they are weak at, I can't expect strength. Mm-hmm. I can't. That's their weakness. Yeah. So if in that area, I can't really get mad at them knowing that's their weakness. That's who they are. Now I can help bring it to their attention in a way that's productive so that weakness is no longer their weakness. And then once we understand that, we can begin to really move forward. And now we can come together. But if you're just in a relationship with anybody, whether you're married or anything, where all of a sudden nothing can be done, he won't budge, she won't budge, they won't take part in the relationship, they won't engage. You know what? If everybody has tried everything that they know to do and there's still no resolution,
yeah.
Sorry. I'm not an advocate for staying in something that's going to have you miserable and completely frustrated. I mean, why?
So you're passionate about that piece of staying in something that's going to leave you that way. And I'm passionate about, it's funny, our dynamic. I'm passionate about not allowing it to get to that point. Can you see how that is crazy?
That's all I'm saying, Rodney. If you're with a nonverbal person, find another way to communicate. And that's the key. You have to find out how the best. And that's where people go wrong in relationship. We bring our own expectation. This is what I want you to do. I want you to talk to me all the time. If I'm not a talker, that's impossible. I'm just going to play the game. I'm just going to go outside, play basketball. I'm just going to do something constantly. And so that's why we've got to know the person that we're with so that we can understand how to get the best from them. And then we got to adjust based on that. Yeah. Just like they now have to adjust based on where I'm at. And so ultimately in a relationship, both parties should be meeting in the middle of the road. It shouldn't be a meet me 70% of the way, 30%. No, it's a halfway point, and we're both supposed to be meeting halfway at that place.
So that is awesome. Thank you all for joining us. This is going to conclude our Let's Unwind with the
Make sure you share this so that other people can listen to this talk, because she was going in on tonight.
Yeah, we both were. But listen, my ear was popping the entire time too.
We just got here from out of town on the airplane, so she.
But yeah, if y'all tuned in late, Diane can vouch for it. Ari can vouch. Yeah, I was kind of going in. But no, we are both of us, not just me, but both of us are very passionate about relationships, and we don't want your relationship or marriage to fail.
Nope.
So we are going to give ourselves every Monday night, even coming to the place of creating a singles panel, a safe haven where you can just communicate with all different singles, men and women from across the world. And that's what we desire. We desire to cover every facet of relationships and just be that safe place. If you have questions, if you have thoughts of how you want to pursue something and you just need to know, okay, is this right?
Wait till you see
how to pursue it.
Your sister was going in. She was going in, right? Right? But no, listen, guys.
You know what I'm talking about?
Silly.
That was her CJ.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm talking about? No, listen. But the reality is, there is no concrete counselors. I like that. There is no reason in the world you should have a bad relationship. If you have a bad relationship, you have chosen that bad relationship. She did. She's gonna go back and watch it, and she's gonna be like, "Oh,
no, I saw me, but hey."
She's gonna be like, "Oh my God, she was on it." But there's no reason to have a bad relationship. There are too many tools out here. There's too much information, and I'm the advocate. And Apostle Sally is another one. We're advocates. We're advocates for men. And I'm a supporter of men. I'm a backer of men. I'm a man. I have a PhD in manhood. And so for me, I'm passionate about making sure that my brothers get it right. I'm fed up with hearing the talks of women and how men aren't around and men are doing this and men aren't doing that. I can't stand it. I take that personal. So for me, I'm a big advocate to make sure that the guys get it right. You guys have to get it right. You have to get it right with these ladies. You have to get it right in these relationships, because a lot of this is just on us. Okay, it is just on us. But that's why people like myself come to the forefront. You say, hey, brothers, let's do this.
Yes.
Brothers, listen to me when I talk. Listen, I'm talking. And again, I take my over 30 years of marriage. I was married for 30 years. So I know, how a relationship could fail. And I know how a relationship is supposed to be. So I bring that experience to the table. Then it's like, no, what you're doing is wrong, brother. You're selfish. No, what you're doing is wrong. Okay, and I get that she did this, but listen, one thing my wife will tell you, I am a balanced person. So when we talk to you, I'm always going to bring balance. So don't, when we have relationships that we counsel. And when somebody comes to me and says, oh, she did this and she did this and she did that, I listen. Then when they get finished, I say, okay, now what did you do? What was your contribution?
Yeah.
What was your contribution? Okay, that's all I want to know. What was your contribution? What did you do? And that's the key. It's all about, because if you never see your part of it, there's never going to be anything to change. There's never going to be any improvement. So you have to see yourself first before we can change the other person. And a lot of people don't like that, because when you bring it to them, it's like, oh, and you want to point fingers at me and blah. No, it's not that. I'm just trying to bring to your attention the balance, like Diane said, because balance is a God thing.
Absolutely. So you all, for those who missed the beginning of the show, we actually will have the singles on our show this Wednesday, March 31st at 7 p.m. It'll be a panel with a few guests and
our singles
a few different, so it's singles remix. Can we do singles remix? So every time we have surprise guests on the singles panel, we'll do remix, so you guys know. So if you guys could do us a favor, just please share as we're going to end this tonight. We hope it's been a blessing. We hope it enlightened you.
Thank you so much for watching, Diane.
And Diane, we're praying for your marriage. We really are, because
you can do it.
We want to see, God's hand move in it, and maybe, trying this, and just even with what you shared with me, we could recommend some books. So if it's a situation from a counselor perspective, I don't want to go seek a counselor anymore. Just do it in the form of a book. Yeah. Babe, I like this book. This is very interesting. You might want to look at it. It's helping me. Look, it's helping me. That's what's going to draw. Not that it can help you, but it's helping me change.
And I know how I need to change some things to be a better wife to you.
Listen.
Wait, you say that again? You don't want to do what?
Yes.
See, y'all don't know how to play the game.
You gotta play it. You gotta twist it.
Y'all be so busy talking about something. You need to change it. You need to change. No. You got to woo him in and say, wait a minute. This is helping me so much. I'm learning how to change and be a better wife.
Thank you, Regina. We love you. We love you, Diane.
Yes.
Well, have a blessing, ladies. Have a blessed night, ladies.
Fierce marriage.
And men.
Fierce marriage.
Ooh, nice.
Look that up, right?
I think we're a little too fierce. But good night, you guys.
Y'all have a great one. See y'all next week. Oh, Wednesday night. I'm sorry.
Wednesday.